Hey, what's going on, visionaries? Jason Osborne back again with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about how to properly store your photography gear. Whether it's cheap or expensive, it's always important to know how to effectively, safely, and efficiently store your gear. So I'm going to be going over my methods coming up. So yes, how do I store my photography gear? Well, it's as simple as using something called a dry box. Now, you can go through two different methods of a dry box, and to be honest, I didn't even know what a dry box was. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was awesome, did her own research, and got it for me one year for my birthday. And it's something that I use every single day to this day, and it's an amazing little piece of technology. So what I have is an electronic dry box, and basically what that is, it's a box that, a cabinet that I put all of my photography gear in, all of my lenses, all of my camera bodies. It fits really well. I put them in, and it basically controls the humidity within that side of that cabinet so that it won't negatively affect my gear. Now, how can humidity affect your gear? Well, with lenses, moisture and humidity can create fungus and mold inside of your lenses, which is basically impossible to get out and will ruin a lens, and will definitely ruin the picture quality that that lens gives you. For seals like weather sealing and things like that, the rubber seals on your camera bodies and on your lenses as well. Humidity can either dry those seals out so they don't work effectively. For your camera bodies, keeping all the electronic functions and the moisture out of them, especially around the sensor, is super important because, once again, moisture and humidity is never good for any kind of electronic, and the dry box really helps control that. Now, obviously, I'm not out here, shooting in the rain or, really, putting my gear through a lot of wet conditions. But I live in Houston, Texas, and everybody in Houston, Texas would tell you it is a very humid part of the country to live in. So if you live in a humid country or a humid state, I would suggest definitely getting a dry box. So how does a dry box work? Well, there's different types of dry box that you can buy, but the one that I have is an electronic dry box. And basically, you probably wouldn't even know that it's working or that it's on, but you put your gear in and you set your humidity level, and that's it. It's not going to make a noise. There's no fan. There's no suction sound. You're not going to be able to know if it's actually working or not. But it'll have a meter that will show you the humidity level inside of the actual dry box. So electronic dry boxes, they contain a small Peltier cooler, which basically controls the moisture in the air by condensing it out. So it's basically a very small heat lamp in the back of the dry box that warms up the temperature very subtly, and it really just dries everything out and regulates that humidity inside of the dry box. Now, that will allow your camera to stay nice and dry, prevent any fungus or mold from growing inside of the lenses. It can protect your negative film strips, any kind of other type of hardware that you would use for your photography. It can protect, I put my old external hard drives in there as well. Just anything that has an electronic component that you would want to keep safe from any kind of humid conditions, it can definitely help with that. Now, of course, if you have central AC or AC, yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to keep your gear out. But what if your AC goes out? Or what if you are shooting in a drizzle type of rain and some of your gear does get wet? Sometimes just wiping it off with a towel isn't going to really get all that moisture out. A lot of times photographers will put their camera gear in their bag, shoot, and then after that, leave it in their bag until their next session. Or they'll take it out, put it on a shelf, let it dry out that way. This is just giving that extra layer of protection by, sucking out any of that moisture, any of that extra layer of, water or anything that could be hidden in the cracks and the crevices of your gear, and really drying it out and making sure that it's not going to negatively affect any of the electronic components in your camera bodies or your lenses. And I find it works really well. Also, it's a great way to save a cell phone from, water damage other than the bowl of rice. I think my wife's phone got wet one time and we stuck it in there, and we put it in there for 24 hours, took it out, turned right on, had no problems. So, there are definitely benefits of having a dry box. Now, a dry box you can find online, and a lot of them do come from, the Asian market. A lot of them are Chinese made. Doesn't mean that they're not quality made. They're just, I really haven't found one that was actually made in the US. So when you find them, they're probably going to have an international seller, things like that. So to get that extra layer of protection, go ahead and get yourself a little $10 humidity reader as well that you can find on Amazon. I got one of these, and it has a magnetic back, and I placed it inside because I wanted to compare what the independent humidity reader was reading compared to what the box was telling me. And I was fairly pleasantly surprised that the meter reading was pretty much the same as the box meter. I've heard other stories where you can't really trust the box meter and that the humidity level is always higher inside of the box and it will tell you. But for me, I haven't had that issue. I've gotten relatively the same readouts from the independent reader that I have inside of it compared to the one that it's actually telling me on the front of the box. Now, it's also just a great way to display your gear. Keeps it all organized. It's a safe way as well. Mine has a glass front panel so I can see everything. I can lock it up, hide the key if I want somewhere in my office. It has a little light where I can put on a light. It has a nice little light to show off your gear for guests when they come by. It's just an overall way to organize and condense your gear in one thing. And they come in different sizes. I have a pretty good size. I will say it's getting a little cramped in there. And if I get any more gear, either as far as a new lens or anything like that, I probably will have to upgrade and get a bigger one. And it's also a great way to protect your gear from dust particles. It's a pretty much an airtight sealed type of cabinet, so dust is not really going to be able to get in there. And I usually will make sure to put my gear in there as soon as I'm done. If I have back-to-back gigs, I'm not gonna lie, probably just leave it in my my Pelican case or my bag. But if I have a good amount of time before my next shoot, I usually take it out, put it in there, let all that moisture come out, especially if it got a little wet or a little moisture was in the air. It's always a good thing to do. Now, these things can cost anywhere between $199 to $300 to $400 and up. I've seen them go up in range, anywhere between $100 to $400. Now, there is a cheaper way to do something like this. And basically what you can do is you can get yourself a big plastic bin and order yourself some silica gel. Now, silica gel are those little tiny packets that you find in your shoes or any other types of electronics that says do not eat silica gel. Those are there essentially to be a moisture absorber. They are there to absorb any moisture that could get into your product that could potentially damage your product before you open it and take it out of the box. So what you can do is order yourself a $5, $10 tub of Tupperware, something big enough to fit all your gear. Buy yourself some silica gel and dump it in there. And then just at the same time, go ahead and dump your gear in there, close the lid, make sure it's nice and tight. And there you go. You have your own homemade dry box. The only thing is that you cannot regulate the humidity inside of that. And I'm not sure how much silica gel you'll need to get a certain humidity level. You'll probably have to do some kind of research in that regard. But with the dry box, the electronic dry box, I can set the humidity level of what I want it to be. Now, typically it should be around 45% humidity to keep, your electronics dry, have everything really good. They say you shouldn't go below 45 because then it can be a little too dry and weather sealing on your cameras and on your lenses can start to get really dry and a little brittle. So I keep it between 45 and 40. And I verify that with the independent humidity reader that I put inside of it to make sure that it's also reading that level. And I really think this is a better way than just, putting your gear on a shelf or keeping your gear on a desk. Things like dust and humidity and moisture can affect your gear in all certain ways. And if you want to hold a resale value to your gear and your lenses, you definitely want to keep it in the best shape possible throughout the years that you're using it. And I feel like having a dry box is definitely one of those ways that you can do that. So anyway, that is my, advice for you today. Short video today. By the way, I am in the process of moving. So yeah, I'm going to try to get some videos recorded so I can just have them automated and loaded up for the next couple of weeks. But if I happen to go ghost for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to be, tearing down everything, packing it up, moving it to our new spot. And, very shortly, I would say by June, you're going to start seeing a new background. Hopefully it'll look just as cool or better and we'll be in our new spot. So a lot of big changes happening. So I do apologize in advance for you know, the lack of videos that may or may not come up in the near future. But just wanted you to know that I'm not disappearing like I did last year, and I will definitely be back. Hope you found this video informative. I will go ahead and place the link to the dry box that I own in the description below. So if you want to go ahead and get one for yourself, for your gear, I highly recommend it. I highly suggest it. And I also will place a link for the little independent humidity level reader that I have inside of it that verifies that the accuracy of the humidity levels that my dry box is telling me is correct. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Jason Osborne, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Talk to y'all later. Peace.